All right, y'all should be able to hear me now. I just realized I was doing that newscast and nobody was hearing a thing. So let's start back at the beginning. Defense Secretary John Healey resigns over military spending plans. UK Defense Secretary resigns in a blow to Starmer. So Britain's Defense Minister Healey quits over defense spending. John Healey is the ex-trade unionist who privately battled the Treasury. And India voices strong protest over three of its mariners being killed in U.S. strikes on oil tankers. India demands an end to U.S. attacks on ships after three sailors were killed. Trump warns the U.S. will hit Iran very hard tonight. Trump says the U.S. will hit Iran very hard tonight and threatens to take Cargill. Man who used hurl to stop Belfast attack condemns unrest. What to know about the stabbing that set off fury riots in Northern Ireland. Police blast water cannons at protesters amid unrest over the stabbing in Belfast. Police fire plastic bullets in an effort to contain race riots in Northern Ireland. And Russian-held Sevastopol suspends fuel distribution as Zelensky praises an attack. So Russia's fuel crisis intensifies as Ukraine steps up strike on occupied territories. Russia's energy ministry admits drone attacks behind gasoline shortage. Crimea Hotel offered guest gasoline as a booking perk. The promotion was canceled 4 days later. The fuel ran out. And how algorithm got its name from a ninth century Persian mathematician is what NPR is talking about. So I've always wondered that. So I guess I have to read that article and find out how that actually took place and everything like that. So a three-day invasion has surpassed World War I and threatened global catastrophe. And that's what folks are talking about in the war between Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine's war is now longer than the First World War. Women who fled Iran are to be deported to Central African Republic, is what a lawyer is saying, and that was being reported by the New York Times. And Pope the 14th led Mass at the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. Pope Leo the 14th officially blesses the Sagrada family in Barcelona and all along those lines. So Sagrada family, Gaudi's eccentric home to Catalonia, is where the Pope is at today and everything like that. So hopefully folks will be joining me very shortly and then they can take over this as well and everything along those lines. But definitely just give me a couple of news briefs as I speak for my folks. Europe plans to crack down on Russia, but for real this time. EU plans to blast Russian soldiers from blocking fresh sanctions on Moscow. So EU lines up Russian cod ban, and EU is targeting Russia's patriarch Kirill in new sanctions proposal. U.S. and Iran trade attacks again after Trump pledges Tehran will pay the price for not accepting the deal. U.S. launches a second day of strikes on Iran, and Iran fires back at Gulf states. So Trump is bowling over those situations after Tehran keeps him waiting. Xi Jinping visits North Korea to strengthen strategic ties. North Korea, China claim wins from Xi visits, but limits remain. China recenters North Korea ties as nuclear silence reshapes balance. Behind the pageantry in Pyongyang with Xi and Kim. So did China's Xi visit China or not? So that's what folks are talking about as well. So a lot of folks are keeping that in mind also. And who is the man funding Albania's controversial property deal? That's something that folks are talking about as well. So I'm getting ready to bring in Rick, and he's got some things to say about the news as well. But definitely, we'll see what he's got on his mind and all along those lines. So how you
Okay,
doing?
yeah, okay. The craziest NBA Finals game in history last night.
I did watch it. I watched most of it, including when they were up by 29, and then they lost by a point.
Yeah, and they were up 20 even in the fourth quarter and still lost,
Yeah.
which is insanity. They were up 76-49 at halftime. And but with two good teams, no halftime lead is safe
No,
because
no.
they can just switch roles in the second half, which is what happened.
Well, one of the things happens is one of the things that they take in sports is don't depend too much on the 3 pointer, and they were definitely living off of the 3 pointer. So they
Yeah,
started
and
missing a
they
lot of those 3 pointers that they had been hitting all that much in the first half.
yeah, 3 pointers are iffy. Even the best 3 point shooters, hit it about 35-40% of the time, which means there's plenty of room for not hitting them.
Exactly. So we've got Nick joining us as well. So we'll see what Nick's got on his mind and all
Well,
in that week.
wholesale
He just disappeared.
wholesale inflation hit 6.5% year over
Oh,
year last month, which it hit over 11% under Biden. So it's not up to Biden numbers, but On the other hand, it didn't have to happen. But
Yep, it didn't have to happen. And we'll see what Nick's got on his mind there in Spain. Did you go to Catalina and see the Pope and everything like that? So
I live in Catalina. He came over here, but he didn't see me, nor did I see the King Juan
is
Carlos.
that where the crazy Gaudi cathedral is?
Yeah, they have he dedicated the Sagrada Familia, which is the Gaudi.
By the way, we'll have to see what Sasha says about this, but apparently Canada is seeking to ban social media accounts for children under 16, and we know that this is a trend throughout the world and everything like that, but this is something that just came down yesterday, so they're proposing a social media ban for children under 16.
Good luck. How are they going to control that?
I have no idea.
I don't know if you ever saw the very famous case which dealt with the Trail of Tears, where Jackson ordered the Native Americans to leave and pushed them to Oklahoma. Then the Supreme Court of the United States ruled against him. And Andrew Jackson goes, well, that's great. You made your decision. Now enforce it. Okay. So Cam made this decision. Show me how you're going to force these kids not to get on social media. You know, as they say in Pawn Stars, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah, any decent kid knows how to circumvent that stuff.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. They're too smart. So it's kind of a waste of time. I mean, it's like saying, well, you know, you're not allowed to breathe. I just passed a law. You can't do it. Well, good luck. Enforce it. So if Canada passes a law, hey, you're under 16. Yeah, go manage a 14-year-old or a 13-year-old and tell them, oh, you can't use social media. And here they have a cell phone. You know, I mean, come on. And then what are you going to do if they did violate, Rick? Okay, let's say, oh, I caught a kid who's on Facebook. Now, what are you going to do? Put him in jail? I mean, seriously?
No, you're going to close down that account, so they have to open up another account.
And then they just open up another one. I mean, it's whack-a-mole. So I just don't see that being a solution to the problems of social media. It just isn't going to happen. So they can do that. They can pass all the laws they want. Social media is here to stay. You just have to deal with it. Yeah, I do get on X every now and then. X is kind of a just gross.
X is bad. Really, X is bad. Twitter was gross. I mean, Twitter was not perfect, but it was.
I didn't do Twitter very much, but I got on X with because Elon Musk says, oh, we're going to let anybody post. We're going to have freedom of speech. So it's a combination of the derelict crime and pornography mixed into a bag and stuck on the internet. So if you want to see disgusting stuff, okay.
Well, it's misinformation and hate.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. It's misinformation and hate. And I go, well, on the bad side, it's misinformation and hate. But then I go, well, on Pod TV, we don't get as many viewers as X, so maybe I'm jealous. But then I go, wait a minute, I'm not jealous of misinformation and hate. I mean, you know, I would rather have decent information with decent people than a bunch of garbage that exist on X. I mean, and we broadcast on X, but I don't think our viewers, a person who listens to X won't listen to Pod TV, because if you go into X, you want to see somebody beat somebody up, or you want to see some
or you want to use the N-word. I reported somebody for
oh, really?
Yeah. Like, I will report people, and sometimes they'll do something about it. Most of the time they won't. You know, you can't just blatantly call people the N-word.
Oh, really? Okay.
X, but
yeah. I mean, it's not my. Let's put it this way: it's not my favorite place, but I go there to see, are they going to do anything different? And I don't think so. I think they have their niche in watching people beat each other up.
Well, that's where I built my house. I'm still on X because I built my social media following
really?
Pretty good numbers under Twitter.
Well, the thing is, then what you should rebroadcast our things on X then, because I don't have much of a following on X. I built it up on LinkedIn. You know, so most of my people are on LinkedIn. They're not on X.
Yeah, I should figure out how to do that. But
there's a way that you can share the broadcast onto X. not exactly sure how you do it, but then you could share the broadcast. And by the way, the person yesterday was really good. The person that Mark had on, the
Yeah, no, he
professor
was
at
awesome.
Bampton.
He knew. I like when people who know stuff come on the
He
show.
actually knows stuff, right? Yeah, he's a professor of history at Bampton University, State University of New York at Bampton, and I actually was behind the scenes just listening to all of it because I thought all his rap was really good, and it was a lot about Civil War history, things that people didn't know. I thought it was just really good. But see, that appeals to me. It doesn't appeal to the average person. The average person wants to see somebody take a shot at somebody. They would go bang, oh, like that.
Yeah, but
And that's on X.
you can bring him back to, if you want to take that guy who knows everything about, the U.S. Revolutionary period.
Right.
You can have him compare it to now, and then you can take your shots.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's true. But the thing is, I'd rather listen to the history, and I wanted to see what he thought about Dr. Benjamin Rush. I had his book somewhere here. It's buried in my library, but then yesterday I couldn't find it. But I thought it would be, he may have a pretty good rap on that guy. He was one of the founding fathers, but he was the only one that was a medical doctor. But he also everything was so different back then that you went to the College of New Jersey. Well, what was that? That's now called Princeton University.
Okay.
I mean, you go like, really? Okay. So there's a lot of ancestral history that exists during that period.
Yeah, but things were different, but also the same. In that Washington inoculated his true. Well, the smallpox vaccine was available during the Revolutionary War.
Right.
But Washington didn't do that. What he did do is he told his troops, I need you to go off and get smallpox and then come back once you're over it and fight.
Oh, really? Okay. Yuck. Because some of them could have died because of that.
Yeah, but he didn't want them dying while they were fighting.
Or they're fighting.
An outbreak of smallpox among his troops.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing is, see, this is the funny thing about, because we have a lot of anti-vaxxers on LinkedIn, and I know Dr. Patmos is trying to beat them down like whack-a-mole, but it is whack-a-mole. They keep coming back up. It's like, you can't do vaccines. It's against your body and all. But wait a minute. During that period of time, people died without having the smallpox vaccine. People died without having polio. Average life expectancy was 26. And then they come with this argument. Well, that was then, but it grew naturally. In other words,
the people who get sucked into anti-vax have a number, like they well, we know about it. It's an information bubble where you gather a bunch of sources around you who all agree with each other, and they're all bullshit.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the whole thing. But it's like whack-a-mole. It keeps expanding. It's like it's like the universe. It keeps expanding. Well, the universe doesn't expand. What happens is that we are discovering further outreaches of the universe. The universe is what it is, But the thing is,
I mean, we've had the Big Bang theory has been the predominant theory for more than 60 years. But what happens in science, at least according to the commonly accepted picture of science right now, is you have a theory, and it's a new theory. It comes in, it kicks the old theory's ass, and then over time, you find out more and more problems with the theory as the new theory becomes the old theory, and we're in that period right now with the Big Bang.
They keep changing. Well, I mean, and that's what Dr. Patman is trying to say about science. It evolves. It's not fixed. It's fluid, but it evolves slowly. And the thing is, and they have scientific basis for the reason they're doing things. The anti-vax has no scientific basis.
No, but they do, but they have a misunderstood scientific basis.
And also they have what they call anecdotal studies. In other words, well, my grandmother, she took the COVID vaccine, she died, and she take the COVID vaccine.
There's a Twitter feed. There's a feed on X called "Died Suddenly," and anytime somebody dies, they find out if they were vaxxed, or even if they weren't vaxxed, they say they were, and they blame the vaccination.
Exactly. In other words, there's no relationship whatsoever, except the person took the COVID vaccine and died, but then they had a pre-existing condition that was off the charts that they're going to die if they took the COVID vaccine or not. But then they say,
Or
well,
they take somebody who died
they died.
and they were vaxxed, and then they do an
Yeah.
autopsy on them, and they pull these giant clots out of their blood vessels and
Right.
show, see, this is what the vaccine does to you. Turns out, if you die, you clots form in your blood vessels. That's what happens.
Yeah, right. And it just goes on forever. And then the latest thing is, Dr. Fauci should be in jail for what he did. What did he do? There's nothing in there.
Okay, so
record.
you talked about
What's going
science
on here?
changing. So COVID was an entirely new strain and at the beginning, if you remember the first few months of COVID, they were trying to, mortality was about 8% if you were
it's pretty
hospitalized
high.
with COVID. And they eventually they dropped it down to less than 1/4 of 1%. It's probably 1/10 of 1% now, as they figured out what to do. But nobody knew exactly what to do at the beginning. Fauci said something about, masks don't work, because Fauci didn't want to cause a panic and a run on masks early on, but to hold people, to say they were monsters for the stuff that they tried to do in the first 2 months of COVID is more bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And here's also some reality, is that Australia did a couple things. They did a lockdown, which of course the anti-vaxxers hate. Oh, I lost my freedom. And then you know what else they did? They did a mandate. Everybody takes the vaccine. Oh, I lost my freedom. And you know what the result was? 5,000 people died.
Right. Also, New Zealand, same thing. Also, what they did another really smart thing, which was to be 10,000 miles away from the main breakouts. It took a while for COVID to get to Australia, and they had time to come up with a comprehensive plan.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you think about it, they did two things that anti-vaxxers hate. They did one thing, they did a lockdown. They hate that. Oh, my freedom is impinged. Oh, stop it. The next thing they did is they did a mandate. Oh, my freedom is impinged. Stop it. And the results were 5,000 people died in the United States, 1.2 million. Okay. And so when I argue about it, it's like they have no argument. It's like well,
no, they do. The argument is that when you say 1.2 million died from COVID in the U.S.,
yes,
the anti-vaxxers will say died from COVID or died with COVID.
Yeah, exactly. I saw that, but because there was somebody said that you don't die from COVID, you die with COVID. Well, that's kind of like a play on words, because when you look at it, somebody like myself has asthma. I get COVID and I die because of respiratory failure due to asthma, because COVID exacerbates it. I mean, and then they say, well, you died with it. You didn't die because of it. And I'm going, you guys are stupid. Okay. In other words, the COVID that basically exacerbated the pre-existing condition.
But they have another argument. They said,
but I did see that, and I thought, oh, what an incredibly.
Another argument is nobody died of COVID. Doctors just said people died of COVID because of the world psyop, psychological operation to dominate the world and take away our freedom. That's argument one. Argument two is nobody died of COVID. Doctors just said they died of COVID because they get paid when somebody dies of COVID. Two stupid arguments.
It's a stupid argument, and frankly, no one got paid because they died of COVID. I mean, and so the thing, but this is what I'm saying. I did see I call them pop-ups. They're like whack-a-moles, and usually they're people that are semi-literate, semi-educated, don't really have any health backgrounds whatsoever. But they know everything, and I'm going like, whoa.
None of these people were sitting at the front of their classroom in high school, right?
Exactly. Well, see, that's exactly correct. What you just said is correct. I was going like, where were you in high school? Where did you graduate in your class? Okay, I guarantee you didn't graduate top of the class. Now, I have to admit, I didn't, because I skipped my senior year and my freshman year and my sophomore year. And I went in as a junior in college because I just tested it out like crazy. Okay. But But I knew all the ones that did because, because some of them also did the same thing I did. But there was a bunch of people in the school that they didn't take biology. They weren't very good at chemistry. Frankly, they weren't good at math. They weren't good at bloody anything. And those are the people that are opining. You know who's really good, know this stuff, is what Dr. Patna said. And I used to hang out with them. They're called MD PhDs, especially in Seattle. They have a whole biotech community. A lot of them played chess. I ran into the chess things. Okay. And one guy, what was he? He actually was one of the top tech people from Microsoft and Merville. And him and his kids used to go there. Now I found out later on he was a billionaire. I didn't know that back then. They were just chess players. But he was an MD PhD. He was one of the typical tech guys. But the MD PhDs are your research scientists.
Right. They're people.
They're incredible nerds.
But they go to work in a lab,
yes.
And they're like, okay, I don't know enough stuff. I could know more. So then they keep learning more and more. They keep accumulating academic credentials because they need all this training to do their best jobs. And then yesterday on X, somebody said, full-time academics are some of the most insufferable people in the world. And
yeah, they are.
Yeah, because they know a ton of stuff and they want to tell you this stuff, and they might be on the spectrum. I'm on the frickin' spectrum a little bit. At least I worked in bars for 25 years that kind of took my nerdy edge off. But, even so, my wife is like, talk to me about something that's not boring. And so, these nerds who, they know stuff.
And they graduate in top of their class. They're top in calculus and math when they're in high school. They're top in the physics. They're top of the class everywhere. And the person who's blurting out on LinkedIn is somebody who obviously didn't even graduate in the top half of the class, and certainly not in a extremely competitive academic environment. And then all of a sudden they know everything. And I'm going like,
but there are some of these people on X trying to get rid of some of the misinformation. And so they'll put up tweets saying, here's why you're dumb and wrong. And then the anti-vaxxers are like, get out of here, fucking nerd. And like, you're just part of, the plot, the elitist plot against good, solid Americans.
Yeah, and that's pretty sad because I did start noticing some of the medical doctors and the heads of various different universities that are opining on it. And one of them is Dr. Cox. His analysis is really good, and so the thing is I follow them, and then as opposed to these people who just blurt out, well, it's a conspiracy that all these drug companies are conspiring. Now, they do have some anecdotal evidence that bad things did happen with drug companies. In other words, it's not 100% wrong. Pfizer did get caught with their hands in the tilly about 2 decades ago, manipulating things. But that was 20 years ago, and that was a different era than it was today. So generally, the research that they do is frankly, it's really good. And I just tell people to go on that. Somebody has just come in from Canada. So
there's one more area where anti-vaxxers excel at bullshit, which is that a lot of people have died after getting the vax, right? But the deal is that right now, about 80% of the people on Earth have been vaxxed. So 80% on average, of the people on Earth, of the deaths will happen to somebody who's been vaccinated because people die.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and then they're trying to make a correlation, which just
they don't even know from correlation. All they know is somebody was vaccinated, then they died, and it's like, but does the death rate? How do you have to compare the death rate of the unvaxxed to the death rate of the vaxxed? And that's too much for them. That generally and then trying to explain that to them, you can't even get that far.
No. It's almost like you're wasting. It's almost like you're wasting your time, my time, and sometimes I see it's like whack-a-mole. I said the next person just pops up and they should arrest Dr. Fauci and they should arrest Bill Gates. I'm going like, you guys have no clue what you're talking about. Hey, speaking of which, your friend Donald. Now I'm having a real problem with these wars that are going on. Speaking of misinformation, I have no clue because you get
So, remember that he was lying all his life. He's a con man. He's a convicted criminal.
He's a real estate salesman.
Yeah, real estate doesn't matter. Whatever he did, he lost everywhere. There was no business where he was successful. He is a pathological loser and liar. So if that's all true and based on books that I read and facts that I know, that's 100% truth. So then what do you expect that man announce with his mouth, except that more lies and more lies and more lies? The contradiction only for me is that right now, where he's almost 80 any day, he should be, and I think in some ways maybe he is concerned about his legacy, because his life, you cannot correct all the stuff that you did during your life and all your losses and all the lies. You cannot correct that. But your legacy, you are still in charge of creating your legacy. Now, the United States lost all wars since Second World War, all of them. There was no one war where it prevailed. All wars were badly lost. So take upon yourself, okay, this midterm election is you losing it regardless what's happened with Iran or with anything else. People just got tired of you. Just your party will lose. So forget about this midterm election, inflation, and all that stuff. Just go out and destroy Iran, bring it on its knees, sign the peace deal on your conditions, and that's it. And you secured your place. Yeah, you're a con man, liar, and all that stuff. But you finally brought the victory to the United States of America since 1945. You did it. No, he's hiding about the negotiations and everything that. Now you have to pay $12 billion. You don't want to pay $12 billion, so you want to create a fund of $300 billion with some money under the table would go to Iran. So the people who will create this $300 billion fund, like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, so they say, what? You want us to put money into your bloody fund? We're not going to pay you a penny. You cannot defend your own bases. You cannot defend us against Iran. So forget it. We are going to make our own deals with Iran, and you just pack your stuff and just go away. Okay? So where is this? Where is this con man? Just make the intelligent choice. I want to have my name in history. I want to be a first man since Second World War who won actually the war for America all the way. Just go and do it. American lives will do it. That's the problem. Sorry, I forgot.
So two interesting things came out yesterday with Trump. One is Trump said, I love the inflation. What do you think about the inflation? I love the inflation. This is like an incredibly damaging thing for him to say. Did Fox News viewers see this? Probably not. So we've got 30% of the country who who are shielded from any dumb shit that Trump does in the news because their news doesn't tell them. Also, yesterday, an excerpt from a forthcoming book by Maggie Haberman, the New York Times reporter, came out about a freak out in the Situation Room last July, where in the Epstein files, a woman has reported that Trump liked to torture nipples that he would get with teen girls in Epstein world and just use his fingers to tear the crap out of their nipples, which is consistent with Trump's other behavior. That when he attacks people, when he sexually assaults people, it's generally not with his penis, it's generally with his hands, right? And so, usually the Situation Room is for when you are about to kill Osama bin Laden or there's a nuclear crisis. They convened in the Situation Room because of the nipple problem, which is again makes Trump look incredibly bad. I doubt Fox News viewers will ever hear about this.
And you're right, probably not. In other words, we don't get much Trump over here in Europe. The biggest thing was the Pope came to visit the Sagrada Familia. That was the big news in Europe. And something else is happening that Sasha might find interesting. The central bank of Europe is raising their interest rates for the first time in a long time. So it's going to be like 3.75, which is, it's been low here for so long that if you go to a bank and you put money in, you get zero interest. It's just really, interest rates are low. I'm looking to buy some more real estate, and the interest rates are about 4.4% on a mortgage. And I'm going you're getting rates you can't get in the United States, right, with about the same cost, depending on where you're buying. Obviously, LA market is pretty expensive, but some markets here aren't, like London is, but then there's some markets in Scotland that aren't. And some places in Spain aren't either. They're incredibly cheap. I don't know how long that's going to last because as people move in, they're going to drive prices out. What I find very interesting is foreign policy is dictated on how much Americans have to pay at the pump. In other words, it's not dictated by right, wrong, should we be there or not be there. It's dictated, are my gas prices going up? And if my gas prices are going up, I'm against it. My gas prices are going down, I'm for it. It's just ridiculous.
The biggest story was that the United States doesn't depend on Strait of Hormuz. It has the huge oil reserves, and they're the biggest producer, and so on. ExxonMobil just a few days ago said that the strategic oil reserves are at its lowest level in years, and in fact, it will go down to zero in a matter of 2 weeks.
Oh, so, really? That's exciting.
Such a contradictory situation. On the one hand, the government says that we are independent, the highest, the biggest oil producer in the world. And ExxonMobil, one of your companies that contributed heavily to your election, and saying that there is, two more weeks of oil left in the United States reserves. If that will be the case and nothing will happen in the Strait of Hormuz in the next few days, we are looking at $150 per gallon. Now, guess what will be the price at the pump?
I have no idea. Well, it's going to be about $10 a gallon over there.
No, it might get close to $5 a gallon.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, but
price per gallon of 150.
That part doesn't affect me, Sasha. What does affect me is fuel cost for flying. When you just said that, I'm going, because I usually book my flights in advance because I get good deals. I probably need to book the remainder of my flights in the U.S. I'm flying around the U.S. in October. Because what happens is that the fuel costs make a big difference on all airplanes.
That's unavoidable. There will be additional surcharges, and there will be all kinds of.
So I might probably have to finish up my flight itinerary, my October flight itinerary. I already have my July and August, but but it affects a lot of people that fly, and the business flyers also, in other words, because if that jacks up, it can be very expensive. And inflation at 4%, I wonder if that's also hitting the real estate market. Does that bring up the real estate prices? Are they going up 4%, or is this the 4% is food?
I don't think it's a good market for sellers right now in real estate. Because people don't have the money to buy houses.
Oh, I know. They did the math on that in Vancouver, British Columbia. And the thing is, the guy goes, no one can afford these. You have to put $250,000 downstroke, and then you have to make at least $250,000 a year to afford the house. And the average house in Vancouver is $1.1 million. Because
Vancouver is freaking beautiful. And
I know it's beautiful, right?
And it's the closest major city to Asia. And there's a lot of Asian money that came in and just like made real estate crazy over the past 20 years in Vancouver.
Yeah, and my new hires that I have back in my office in Salt Lake, I told them, the average. I looked at what the average person makes in the U.S. in Salt Lake. They make like $50,000 or $60,000 a year, and I said, look, here's the reality of it, guys. You need to make at least $100,000 a year to survive in the United States. So you got to change your thinking. And they're sitting there like deer in headlights. How are we going to do that? What's my salary going to be? I said, no, it doesn't work that way. Okay, you're going to have to take some risks. You're going to have to make some phone calls. You're going to have to work hard, but you can do it. In other words, it's not impossible in our industry. So I got one guy already on track. He's going to make over $100,000. And I started thinking, gee, my knee, the guy's making over $100,000 is first year out of, or maybe second year out of college. And I'm going like, I'm wondering if I'm spoiling these people. In other words, all of a sudden they go, oh, it's too easy. Yeah, if you got a right coach.
There's another thing you can do. You don't have to move to Vancouver or LA. You can move to the Oklahoma Panhandle, where you talked about the Trail of Tears. They pushed the Native Americans to this crappy land in Oklahoma that nobody wanted. Turns out there was oil on that land, which led to a whole bunch more problems for the Native Americans because they suddenly got rich and then they started getting murdered. There was that Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And Tulsa, I checked the real estate prices in Tulsa, Rick, and they were extremely cheap. It was one of the cheapest places, and you get one of the best values.
If you want to live in a little town in scrubland, you can buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, 1,800 square feet for probably under $100,000.
Yeah, right. And you shop on Zillow and you can. But there's a lot of markets like in Salt Lake where we're headquartered, there is nothing available under $250,000.
No, because Salt Lake is beautiful.
It's beautiful. Green. And unfortunately, you have a lot of Californians moving in. They've driven all the real estate prices up. So as I'm coaching my new group of, I call it the slow horses. They're just coming out of college. And I'm saying, you got to look up to what you're going to make, and you got to be realistic. In the United States of America, if you're not pulling in over $100,000 a year, you aren't even surviving.
And also, one more thing about Salt Lake: Mormons are nice. So if you don't like being in LA and having to dodge crazy homeless people, you might want to move to Salt Lake.
There's a lot of people moving into the Salt Lake area, but I'm telling you what it's doing in that market. It is driving the real estate prices up because they sell their place in California. They can afford anything in Salt Lake. Then they start bidding on it, and everything gets bid up in that market spot place. And it's just the nature of the beast. Most of it's Californians moving in. Because think about it, if they're going to leave California because they don't like the income tax there, what are your choices? You can go to Nevada, go to Las Vegas. You can go to Salt Lake. You can go to Phoenix, and Phoenix is too hot, maybe in that. And then, or you go to Texas. And, Texans and Californians really don't get along, so they go to Austin. Okay.
Austin's the taxes in California are not bad, especially property taxes. We got the lowest property tax in the country. But what you get is a premium when you sell our house is worth 6 times what we paid for it.
Right.
So you take that money, it's a huge chunk of change, and you spend 20% of that if you move to some little town and
right. I agree. Yeah, you can buy a huge place anywhere else, or you buy a dinky little place there. Except, Rick, if you're thinking about going to London, if you go to London, you're going nowhere.
Well, London is a problem because all their housing stock, it was either built for working class people in 1899, where these little dinky houses, that my kid bought a house for a crazy amount of money, less than 900 square feet. Because all the houses were built for working class people who weren't expected to have a lot.
I know.
Hold on, one more thing. Yeah. Then London gets blown up by Hitler's rockets in World War II, and London rebuilds these council estates. But the deal is, England was broke after World War II. They spent all their money fighting Hitler. So they didn't have a ton of money to put up palatial new housing stock. So even the post-World War II newer stuff is not great.
Yeah, and you have to think small, because you're not getting anything big in London. See, in America, what you guys have, because you have a lot of land and you believe in urban sprawl. See, I don't believe in urban sprawl.
Right.
Is that you can buy these big homes far, far away from the city, and then you commute in. Here, that's like not the case. You're in town, and everything is small. You have to think small compared to U.S. It's just a little different. But then convenience, like if I want to go down, I go downstairs. I can go out and grab stuff to eat, because I got plenty of restaurants right downstairs. In other words, there's restaurants and shopping centers and stuff like that. So the convenience is a little different. Like I said, it's just a different lifestyle that Americans don't really fully appreciate. I'm sure it's very similar also in Toronto, that you, if you're in the city center, you can.
Not everywhere. In some areas in downtown, you have wonderful shops and restaurants and so on. But when you're going to suburban areas, it's basically very similar to the United States.
Well, I also have another question for you, Sasha, when we're talking about wars. Who's winning the Ukraine war? I get different reports, but it looks to me that Ukraine is actually now has the upper hand against your friendly Russians, especially when they're delivering payloads to Leningrad, or now called St. Petersburg. And that has got to shake up the average Russian to see places around them burn. I mean, it's just like, because right now it's removed from them because Putin keeps the war over there.
That's right.
But when down the street you see clouds of black smoke running up that came in from Ukraine, all of a sudden you can't really ignore him. Remember, he shut down the press too. I mean, he's done everything to make sure the populace doesn't really know what's going on.
You see, this is a problem with the countries with nuclear weapons available. You see, because Russia's doctrine was, obviously it was to fight the United States with intercontinental ballistic missiles and the submarines and so on. Now, when it comes to conventional war against medium power like Ukraine, so the non-nuclear weapons are available and cannot be used. And all of a sudden, your huge territory becoming a liability, because there is no way you can defend all your huge territory. So you can defend, or trying to defend, Moscow, St. Petersburg, and nothing else. So everything else is available. It's just a matter how many Ukrainian drone operators are available at any given moment. And here we go. And by the end of the year, Ukraine will produce 7 million drones, and they are not going to use them anywhere except Russia. So you send the long distance drones, you can medium distance and so on. Russia, here we go. Russia will bomb you again. Russia is burning. And you know what Russia is doing? Is they're waiting for 3-4 days, and then they're trying to fight these fires. And at that point, Ukrainians do it one more time. No, so the fires will go on forever. They are making Russians suffering. They are playing games with Putin that, oh, they want to have some peace negotiations. Oh, who is away? Oh, Trump is busy with Iran. Okay, we have to find somebody to negotiate the peace. In the meantime, they keep bombing them every night, every day. Thousands of Russians are dying on Ukrainian attacks every day. 1,000, 1,000, 30,000 a month. Done. Next month, 30,000. Done. Next one to fall. And Ukrainians are losing now very, very few people, in, if any, because all they're doing, they have a distance between their army and Russian army, and that distance is completely controlled by drones. So they don't, as soon as Russians are trying to get a little bit ahead to attack, they're immediately killed by drones. So there's no way Russia can attack. And on the other hand, Ukraine already freed 25,000 kilometers from Russians. So this is a slow death for Russia. It will pay dearly, and they will pay for the next centuries for this bloody war.
Oops, you're muted, Nick.
Yeah, Nick.
Oh, I was going to say that sounds pretty reasonable, Sasha. That see, my thinking is Putin's ego is too big that he won't capitulate into a peace negotiation. The only way you're going to have peace over there is he's got to be removed from office. In other words, the Russians have to get tired of him. But for whatever reason, he keeps a high popularity over there, and the only way he can get to his popularity is have black smoke circulating Moscow and St. Petersburg. Because then all of a sudden, maybe he's not that popular.
Is Ukraine ever going to take back Crimea? Crimea is...
I think they will.
It's already there. They can take Crimea any time, like an hour and a half. You want to take Crimea an hour and a half? Just go and do it. There is nothing to defend it. There is no gasoline. There is no food. There is absolutely nothing. Ukraine just keep sort of a low profile and just let it come to its feet by itself. Simply because if there is no gasoline, there is no ammunition, there is no weapons, there is no food, there is nothing. So how can they? So you know what? Ukraine actually should leave it alone. Let them survive and suffer a little bit longer without food, without gasoline, and so on. Let them live there for another week, maybe a month, maybe even 2 months, until they will start dying because of the absence of food, no gasoline, nothing. They cannot even escape. There are people still who are trying to escape Crimea. There is no way to escape because all the connecting roads, they're all controlled by Ukrainian drones. So the people who are today physically in Crimea, they are all goners. They are all dead people. Whether it will take a week, a month, 2 months, doesn't matter. They're all dead.
So that answers your question, right?
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time. At first, I thought they weren't, but now looking at that they're able to cut off the Crimean Peninsula from the Russians, then I go, how's Russia going to hold Ukraine? I don't think they can hold it. I think Ukraine can take it over when
they don't have money. They don't have weapons. They don't have people to fight.
Right.
They have nothing. It's a dying country. And Ukraine is going to be the first one who will show all the world how you deal with a dying power.
Well,
there's a question for Sasha, which is, isn't tomorrow's the SpaceX IPO?
Yes.
Which is something you want to stay away from, right?
It's a bloody tragedy, not for those people who are going to get into SpaceX. That's their gamble. Let them do it. The problem is that sucking money away from all other stocks, because there is not enough liquidity. You know all this AI trade now. It's 41% of U.S. economy. 3 biggest companies are 25% of all U.S. Economy or capitalization, or just by any measure. So this cannot go on forever. So SpaceX will start sucking money from other companies to validate there. But you see, the problem is that many companies, let's take, for example, NVIDIA. It's part of Dow Jones, it's part of S&P 500, it's part of Nasdaq 100, it's just everywhere. So as soon as people start unloading their S&P 500 ETFs or the others, they will automatically sell NVIDIA just as well. So their holding of S&P and through S&P by, for example, NVIDIA, will be diminished. So this money will be directed. You see, we're talking about kind of a passive investment. That's what most Americans do. What they do every 2 weeks, their checks are coming to 401k, and then they're starting to invest it here and there and so on. So now they were investing in S&P 500, and last year it was not the most successful year in that. So they will trim S&P 500, including some good stocks like NVIDIA and others, and they will move this money into SpaceX. So this way, your hard-earning money will provide exit for insiders of SpaceX, and it provides money for all these book runners like Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley and others. So here we go. Your money will make much more money for people who are close to the business.
See, my analysis runs what yours does, Sasha. I can't do SpaceX. Okay. I can't invest in companies like that for a lot of different reasons, but a lot of what you just said. And I know there'll be sucker money coming into SpaceX, probably a lot.
But through passive investing, you will be shareholder of SpaceX anyway. Because
but unfortunately back here I have The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham, and I read it, and you look at the metrics, and the metrics aren't there. And when the metrics aren't there, I'm not there, and I don't care what it does. It just, and when I did do that, I stepped forward into trash like that, I always got burned. In other words, when the metrics aren't there, the question is, when are you going to lose? You better, and the only time I won is I have to watch it very carefully and get out quickly, because SpaceX has no metrics behind it, nothing. It's like
the company is in existence since 2002. If it's such a wonderful company, why are they waiting for IPO until 2026? And guess what? Because of the SpaceX, and it will suck away $1.7 trillion. So other companies, like even Google, for example, they're offering now $80 billion worth of. Even little companies, SMCI, it's a supercomputer company. They are offering now $8 billion, which is 1/3 of all available capitalization of the company. So everybody is rushing to issue debt. But how much money is still available in the United States? Think about that. It's not endless situation. Okay, here is $1 trillion here is $1 trillion there. Oh, Pentagon, what do we need? $500 billion? Okay, here is your $500 billion. How much money, Nick, do you think are available?
Yeah, after a while they run out. But I am looking at Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman because of the stupid war in Iran. But it's so unpredictable as to, should you invest in.
We got Jacoby here. I want to ask. So
there's Jacoby.
We had the craziest finals game in history last night. Though I have a specific question. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I've seen clips of Wembanyama doing what looks like flagrant stuff. Is he a dirty player or not?
Oh, he's clean.
He's not a dirty player at all. The issue is that, I mean, Wembanyama, he is a 22-year-old guy that is the tallest and the biggest target in the league right now. So he is being held on his jersey and so on and so forth. It's just a physical game. I mean, literally every team has come out to try and elbow him and slow him down because he has one of the biggest point differentials when he's on the court and off in comparison when he's on the court and off the court. One of the biggest this year, actually. So no, he's not a dirty player at all. He's just a 22-year-old kid. He's been hit in the jaw. Last night he got hit in the jaw. It wasn't a dirty play. It was just somebody got frustrated. So, no.
Okay.
Hey, Jacoby, you had your video game thing yesterday, so that was good. I'm Arcade Center, so that it was a good start off and everything like that.
I mean, it was a good trial run to get through all the kinks and figure out what the
Hello.
issues are. So yeah, it turned out okay.
Good.
Sasha
Good
had a
trial
phone
run.
call.
No, just Sasha has a phone call and everything, so I heard him in the background and everything. And Nick, just really quickly, I saw that the Pope is having a conversation about urging Spain to deal with a lot of these issues and everything like that. So what are you hearing about this particular meeting that he had? Because apparently he was having a frank discussion about depression and domestic violence and even toxic family relationships when he was visiting your city and everything like that.
Pope has opinions about a lot of things, including Donald Trump.
He does have opinions about him as well.
It's great to have a Chicago Pope because he can, whatever he says, he can say it in English that's comprehensible to everybody. And it's nice to have an American Pope. It was nice to see that victory, that ridiculous victory last night. It was nice to see a whole city go crazy.
Oh yeah, they
What's
definitely went crazy in New York. There's no doubt about that. I did see.
Hold on, let Jacoby first.
Go ahead.
What's really interesting, because we got, I guess we got about a minute, but this one is probably a good topic to discuss next, or a good predictor. Will the 2028 Olympics actually happen in the U.S.? Because based on what's happening with FIFA, that's a good question.
Well, I mean, yeah, with the FIFA screwed up, and the U.S. They didn't negotiate with the U.S. to get so that our customs people wouldn't stop players and refs from coming in.
Well, the thing is, I don't think it was FIFA that screwed up on that. That was the U.S. that started detaining people.
Yeah, we're dicks. We're being dicks.
So I can't blame it on FIFA. It's what's going on with it's what's happening in the U.S. with Custom Border or Border Patrol right now. So how will that affect the 2028 Olympics is the big question.
I think I would guess that they're just going to let it go ahead.
Hey, by the way, today is the start, I believe, of the World Cup. So actually, when I did that event on Tuesday, there was a young lady that I think is going down to Miami. So what kind of attendance do we expect for the World Cup with all the turmoil going on in the world? Because the World Cup starts today, and I think the person I met was going to the Uruguay Cape Verde game and everything like that. But what does y'all expect to be the attendance and the reaction of these various locations? I think he's going to a game in Miami. There's other people that are going to games.
So attendance might be down by 10% over anticipated crowd size, because we might have lost some soccer tourism because people don't want to come to a country that's being dicks and run the risk of being hassled. So we will.
It's not going to be down by much because
we'll make less money from tourism. Tourism is down 10%, but it might lead to a slightly improved fan experience by reducing the crowds a little bit.
Yeah, but only slightly, because soccer people are fanatics. I mean,
Yeah.
about their soccer team. I mean, they're crazy about it. So I don't think it's going to be a big downstroke. But what is a downstroke right now is we're out of time.
Right. Anyway, we got 102 games to play in the World Cup, and so
okay, well, 102 games.
104 games.
I think you're going to see some good attendance here because of like I said, the people there are fanatics. But we're out of time, so we got to go because we got another show coming on. So until tomorrow.